So, reporting has it that President Biden and Vice President Harris allegedly despise each other, basically, the gist of it. And so there are snippets and like Vice President Harris and her staff are angry that she's not given enough to do. While on the other hand, they're also angry that she's not being given like easy roles. And then on the other hand, President Biden is supposedly dismissive of Vice President Harris and she's like not doing anything and like just is just there. And I'm here to tell you that's just what normally happens for vice presidents. Like most of the time, they're just there and they don't have much to do. If you remember that famous Joe Biden quote where he talks about the vice presidency being like being the grandparent and not the parent, and like it's not much to do and it's a much easier job. That's what the vice presidency is basically. And the vice president only has power insofar as the president gives them more stuff to do. The only official power that the vice president really has is presiding over the Senate and casting any tie-breaking votes. And so people act like it's a big scandal about how President Biden and Vice President Harris do not like each other, or Donald Trump and Michael Pence hate each other, or Barack Obama and Joe Biden President Biden do not like each other. Like people act like those are big scandals and like actual substantive big deals, but they really don't matter at all. I mean, it's just normal. So yes, I mean, President Biden and Vice President Harris probably despise each other. Donald Trump and Michael Pence probably hate each other too, especially because of the uh, January 6th insurrection, where the Donald Trump supporters were going around chanting about hanging Mike Pence, and Donald Trump was just basically he didn't even condemn his supporters. In fact, he's just like, oh well, the supporters are very angry because Mike Pence should have had the courage to do the right thing. But he didn't do the right thing, so you can understand why they're angry. And so Donald Trump is like that, and look for us. Mike Pence is going to be very angry about that, and also Donald Trump and Mike Pence probably didn't get along too well. And Mike Pence was basically just Donald Trump's lapdog because Mike Pence figured Donald Trump would help him out in his political career, which Mike Pence's political career was in the garbage, just like Kamala Harris's. But yeah, I mean, they were basically taken out of the dumpster by Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So basically, yeah. And Barack Obama and Joe Biden did not like each other, and of course, President Biden said that he actually was against the surge in Afghanistan, but Barack Obama just ignored him. So, or the implication is that Barack Obama ignored. Yeah, the implication is that Barack Obama ignored him. Like President Biden says that he told Barack Obama not to do the surge in Afghanistan, but obviously, if that's the case, then Barack Obama pretty much ignored what President Biden told him. And of course, if we go further back in time, we have George Walker Bush and Richard Bruce Cheney. Obviously, Bush and Cheney. Cheney was basically in charge, and Cheney is the example of the vice president who actually has a lot of power and is basically the president. And the president, Bush, is really just a figurehead. And Cheney was the true power behind the Oval Office. But the thing is, Cheney and Bush still hated each other. There was reporting of them falling out and just really being furious with each other and despising each other. And if we go back further, Clinton and Gore. Gore was very unhappy with Clinton, and apparently there was one instance where Gore was like waving his finger at Clinton and reprimanding him. And then Bush and Quayle, George H.W. Bush and Dan Quayle. I mean, George Herbert Walker Bush, the only reason he chose James Danforth Quayle as his vice presidential nominee is because Dan Quayle was relatively young, like 42 or 41 or so. And so they're like, oh, we need like a young face on the Republican ticket. That's the only reason Dan Quayle was chosen. And Dan Quayle like he wasn't qualified to be vice president anyway. I mean, come on. He was no Jack Kennedy. anyway, but anyway, the point is that presidents and vice presidents generally despise each other. And Ronald Reagan and George Bush Sr., they also hated each other too. I mean, remember George Bush Sr. and voodoo economics during the Republican primary debate? Yeah, and then of course he cucked to Ronald Reagan and fell in line and became his VP. And then if we go back further, we have Jimmy Carter and Fritz Mondale. And I mean, Jimmy Carter and Fritz Mondale supposedly liked each other. I mean, who knows if that's even true? And Jimmy Carter gave Fritz Mondale a little more power than vice president would normally get. So, I mean, yeah, there's that. Gerald Ford and Nelson Rockefeller. I mean, Gerald Ford just threw Nelson Rockefeller under the bus. So that just shows you how much he cared about him. Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford. I mean, they had some stuff going, but they probably didn't like each other too much. Richard Nixon and Spiro Agnew, we know for a fact that Richard Nixon and Spiro Agnew absolutely hated each other. Richard Milhouse Nixon and Spiro Theodore Agnew. And Richard Nixon was just like, I remember Spiro Agnew took those golf trips and was just blatantly like fooling around and just having fun. And Richard Nixon's like, "Oh my gosh, you have to at least pretend you're working." But anyway, when Spiro Agnew's scandal broke out, Richard Nixon in public pretended to support Spiro Agnew, but apparently, according to Spiro Agnew, behind the scenes in the book that Spiro Agnew published, Spiro Agnew's a pathological liar, so I wouldn't even buy his book. But I mean, he's dead now. But Spiro Agnew, he made the claim that Richard Nixon sent a general to deliver a message to him, and apparently the general said to Spiro Agnew, "Hey, President Nixon wants you to resign unless you want something to happen to you." So basically, the implication is that Richard Nixon allegedly threatened to off Spiro Agnew if Spiro Agnew did not resign. So, yeah, a little bit of tension there, you got to say. And Lyndon Johnson and Hubert Humphrey. Lyndon Johnson used to bully Hubert Humphrey and make. And Hubert Humphrey used to be actually anti-war, but then he flipped his position to being pro-war because Lyndon Johnson bullied him. Of course, that does speak to Spiro Agnew, though, because Spiro Agnew did have agency over his own policy, so still shouldn't have done that. But there is that. And yeah, Jack Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson absolutely despised each other, and Jackie Kennedy hated Lyndon Johnson too. And of course, that's very emblematic, very reminiscent of how Jill Biden reportedly hated Kamala Harris as well. So, and Dwight Eisenhower looked down on Richard Nixon. Dwight Eisenhower did not really like Richard Nixon that much either. I mean, the things he said about Richard Nixon in 1960 was just hilarious. Yeah, I mean, we could go further and further, and we can go back all the way to the time when Andrew Jackson threatened to kill John Calhoun, and then later when Andrew Jackson said that he regretted not killing John Calhoun, and or Woodrow Wilson forcibly relocating Thomas Marshall's office. President Woodrow Wilson hated Vice President Thomas Marshall, so Woodrow Wilson forced Thomas Marshall to move his office far, far away from the presidential office. It was just a classic case of bullying, and it just goes to show you that most presidents and vice presidents hate each other. And so why though? Why? Because a lot of these presidents and vice presidents agree with each other ideologically, like Cheney and Bush. They're both horrible, detestable war criminals. So why would they hate each other? Or Biden and Obama and Biden and Harris, they're all corporatists and neoliberals. And why do they hate each other? And Bush and Quayle, they all love deregulation and endless war. So why do they hate each other? And the reason is being the human. There's many reasons. I mean, there's many personal reasons. We can't speak to every single personal reason as to why so and so hates so and so. It would just get too difficult. But the reason being, it is the way it is. Most presidents and vice presidents absolutely hate each other. They do not like each other. They despise each other. And yes, so there is nothing new or cool or surprising about Biden and Harris despising each other. It is what it is. Oh, and by the way, of course, President William McKinley and Vice President Garrett Hobart. Vice President Garrett Hobart had so much power, and Vice President Garrett Hobart was so active that he was often called the assistant president. Anyway, I don't know about their personal relationship, but they did a lot of horrible policy things together. Foreign policy-wise, William McKinley would be considered a modern-day neocon. By modern-day standards, he would be considered a neocon because of his concentration camps in the Philippines, the massacre of Filipino civilians, using yellow journalism to manufacture consent for an illegal war with Spain, and sending troops into China during the Boxer Rebellion, and all that bad stuff, all those bad policies. But anyway, the point is, presidents and vice presidents generally despise each other, so, I mean, obviously Biden and Harris are going to be no different. And honestly, if there is ever a president who really like each other, then I would be very disturbed, because that would be actually unusual. So, there we have it. Presidents and vice presidents despise each other. And of course, I do want to say there are rare instances where presidents and vice presidents maybe do have different policies and different ideological beliefs. And maybe those could also be areas of tension, because Thomas Marshall was a non-interventionist, whereas Woodrow Wilson was very interventionist. So that was also a source of discontentment. Also, in terms of the vice president, does the vice president's policies matter? And of course, everyone's policies matter. But does the vice president actually have, if the vice president is just ideologically in line with the president anyway, in that case, it doesn't matter. if the vice president has different policies for the president, but the vice president just has no power and it's really just the president making all the decisions, then in that case, then that doesn't matter either. If the president and the vice president, like for instance, if the president, but anyway, yeah, and then there was many other ways too. But the point is, that's just the way it rolls. Presidents and vice presidents. Vice presidents are generally very useless and do nothing unless given special powers and privileges, just like Garrett Hobart, Walter Mondale, and Richard Cheney. And I was going to say one more thing, but I can't remember what it was, so maybe I'll say it in this future video. Presidents and vice presidents despise each other.